Lost Hopes, The Dark Disaster of a Dream for Wealth, Part 2. Dear Magic Verse followers, welcome to the second and final chapter of this captivating story. In the first chapter, we saw how the discovery of a cave altered the lives of 5 brothers. But what happened in this tale goes far beyond a simple discovery. Now, let's uncover how this tragic chain of events came to an end. The work continues. The brothers had been working in the cave for days. What initially excited them about this discovery gradually turned into something else entirely. Hauling sand and bones felt like an endless loop. Progress was painfully slow with their basic tools. Every day they tried to dig deeper into the cave, only to feel as though the cave itself resisted their efforts. The piles of sand and bones never seemed to end, and each step forward uncovered more of the same. Their hopes were slowly giving way to weariness. One day, while working in the cave, Michael dropped his shovel and took a deep breath, asking, "Where is this leading us?" The exhaustion in his eyes was evident. Another brother, Alex, lowered his head and hesitated before saying, "Maybe this place really is empty. We've worked so hard, but we've found nothing." His words echoed against the cave walls, creating a brief silence among the brothers. But the silence didn't last long. Jack, with a determined glint in his eyes, declared, "No, there has to be an end to this. All these signs, all these bones and sand, they must mean something. We can't give up." Jack's resolve momentarily reignited a sense of determination in the others, though no one knew how long that spark would last. As the days went on, some brothers became so obsessed they refused to leave the cave, while others began to feel the endeavor had turned into a dangerous fixation. Michael confided one day, "This cave is consuming us." Alex's reply was firm, "Maybe this is our destiny." Despite their differing feelings, none of them could bring themselves to quit. They clung to the faint hope that the cave might hold a secret or treasure that could change their lives. But that same hope cast dark shadows on their minds. Each brother was affected in different ways. Some began having vivid dreams of strange sounds and images emanating from the cave's depths. One night, Jack woke up in a panic, claiming he had heard a voice in his dream repeatedly urging, "Keep going, don't stop." When he shared this with the others, they realized they'd all experienced similar dreams. These shared experiences spurred them to work even harder while amplifying the weight on their minds. Over time, the brothers' thoughts became muddled by the countless hours spent in the cave. The stress and uncertainty from their labors seeped into their dreams. In these visions, they often saw gold and ancient treasures glittering deep within the cave. One morning, Michael woke up drenched in sweat and told his brothers, "I dreamed of a room at the end of the cave. It was filled with gold, and there was a large stone chest covered in strange symbols. It felt like it was calling to us." These dreams provided both hope and increasing pressure. At times, they believed the only way to find the treasure was to dig even deeper into the cave. But this belief also took its toll on them. Conversations among the brothers became scarce. Each one retreated into their thoughts, trying to unravel the cave's mysteries on their own. Jack didn't come home. One morning, the brothers all had various obligations that pulled them away from the cave. Life couldn't revolve around the excavation alone. They had to tend to their families' needs and fulfill their responsibilities in the village. But Jack didn't go anywhere. Quietly, he waited for the others to leave the house. As Michael walked out the door, he glanced back and said, "You're not going to the cave today, are you? Take some rest." Jack gave a faint, ambiguous smile, but didn't reply. Michael suspected Jack would return to the cave. Once the house was empty, Jack remained behind while the others went about their day. Hours passed, and by evening, everyone had returned home, except Jack. Jack's mysterious disappearance. When they realized Jack hadn't come home, their mother grew visibly anxious. "Jack is never this late," she said, clasping her hands in a silent prayer. The brothers tried to comfort her, but a gnawing fear was growing inside them as well. Michael turned to the others and said, "We have to look for him. Maybe he's at the cave, but we need to be careful. No one in the village can see us." The brothers nodded in agreement. The unease in the house became unbearable as the night wore on. Finally, with their mother's insistence, they decided to quietly make their way to the cave. Armed with lanterns, they left the house under the cover of darkness. Each step felt heavier with the dread that hung over them like a storm cloud. As they walked, they scanned their surroundings, shining their lanterns into the shadows of trees and bushes along the way. "Maybe he stopped somewhere on the path," Alex suggested, though his voice carried little conviction. None of them could explain why Jack hadn't returned. When they reached the cave, they immediately searched the area around the entrance. The piles of sand remained untouched, and there was no sign of movement inside. "Jack, are you there?" Michael called out, his voice echoing through the cave. But there was no answer, only the cold, oppressive silence of the cave. They ventured inside, their lanterns casting flickering shadows on the walls. The familiar sight of sand and bones greeted them. They examined every corner, calling Jack's name again and again, but found no trace of him. Exhausted and disheartened, the brothers sat down on the cold stone floor. The weight of their fear and helplessness pressed down on them in the silence. Michael finally spoke. "There's no point in staying here. Maybe he's gone somewhere else." Alex shook his head slightly, though his eyes betrayed a lingering hope that Jack might still be in the cave. Eventually, they decided to leave. Perhaps Jack had gone to visit a relative or sought refuge elsewhere in the village. Clinging to this fragile hope, they made their way back home through the dark, quiet night. But with each step, their unease deepened. Not knowing where Jack was felt like being lost in a maze. That night, none of them could sleep peacefully. Tragedies and losses. Jack's disappearance plunged the family into a living nightmare. In the initial days, they held on to hope and continued searching relentlessly. Every corner of the village and surrounding areas was scoured. Yet not even the smallest clue to Jack's whereabouts was found. Eventually, the family had no choice but to seek outside help. Government agencies, private search teams, and even television programs joined the effort to locate Jack. Despite all these efforts, he remained missing as if swallowed by the earth itself. Jack's disappearance cast a heavy shadow over the family and the village. Years passed, but the pain of the day Jack vanished never lessened. The questions loomed, unanswered and haunting. Where could Jack have gone? Did the cave play a role in his disappearance? Or was it all a cruel twist of fate? Rumors began to swirl among the villagers that the cave might be cursed. The family's grief was compounded by further tragedies. Jack's disappearance had already halted their work in the cave. Overwhelmed with sorrow and uncertainty, they couldn't bring themselves to continue. But fate seemed intent on breaking them further. A few months after Jack's disappearance, the middle brother suffered a terrible accident at work. While laboring on a construction site, he lost his footing and fell from a high platform. Despite doctors' efforts, he succumbed to his injuries. The family was devastated. The loss of another son so soon after Jack's disappearance was too much to bear. Before they could recover from this blow, another calamity struck. The eldest brother, while cutting trees in the forest, was pinned under a massive falling tree. Though he miraculously survived, he sustained severe injuries that left him permanently disabled. Once strong and capable, he now struggled with pain and limited mobility. The accident marked a turning point, leaving him physically and emotionally shattered. With so many tragedies piling up, the youngest brother made a difficult decision. Unable to cope with the relentless pain and misfortune, he left the village and moved to a distant city. The memories tied to the village and the cave were too painful for him to bear. Meanwhile, only the eldest brother and the second youngest remained in the village, both weighed down by the burdens of their losses and circumstances. Rumors of the cave's curse grew louder. Villagers speculated that the misfortunes that befell the brothers were the cave's retribution for their intrusion. The cave, once a source of hope and ambition, had become a symbol of fear and loss. The stories of the brothers' misfortunes became a cautionary tale, whispered by villagers to dissuade others from venturing near. Years passed, yet the cave remained an ominous presence. No one dared to approach it, and the secrets it held were left undisturbed. Jack's fate remained a mystery, and the shadows of the cave continued to loom over the family and the village. The unanswered questions and unresolved grief seemed to echo endlessly, as if the cave itself whispered the stories of what had been lost. Dear followers, this marks the end of our story. Over the course of these 2 chapters, we've shared the tragic chain of events that befell a family and the ominous secrets of a cave. This story is based on real events, and some of the individuals involved are still alive today. To protect their privacy, names and locations have been altered. This tale raises haunting questions. Was the cave truly cursed? Or were the events merely a series of unfortunate coincidences? While we may never know the answers, this story reminds us of the profound mysteries that sometimes intertwine with human lives. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Stay tuned for more gripping and mysterious tales on the Magic Verse channel. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, take care and stay curious. The end.